celebrities. And here to catch you up on the hot Hollywood headlines you might have missed over the holiday weekend is Kiss FM radio host Shelley Wade.
Shelley, you guys look gorgeous.
Everybody says.
We got a pretty party going on.
Shelley Wade is one of the country's top radio air personalities. She's based in San Diego. Shelley, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for having me.
That's right. It's time to get down here to my sister.
Give it up for the king from the wedding ringer. Saying to Kevin on the red carpet that the Martin Luther King holiday weekend has turned out to be your weekend, much like Will Smith's weekend was the July 4th weekend. This is Kevin's weekend.
It's shaping up. I hope so.
Here at the Billboard Women in Music Awards here. You always give me a kiss. With Lady Gaga, who grew up listening to me.
No, I was a big fan. I still am.
You're an educator. Tell everyone your title and what you do as an educator.
Okay. This is my 17th year in HISD, 6 as an assistant teacher and 11 as a classroom teacher. I kind of consider myself a rare find because there are so few men who teach pre-K, and even fewer Black men who teach pre-K.
So you work with
In
the
fact,
babies. You work with the babies.
I got the itty bitty babies, but I love it. I have been asked to go to upper grade levels over the years, and I'm like, no, this is where I need to be. I feel like if they see me at that young age and I'm able to plant some seeds and really put these kids, the young boys and the young girls, on the path that they should be on, that hopefully those seeds will bear some good fruit. And in 17 years, I'm actually at the point now where I'm seeing some of the kids who I taught early on, they're now graduating from high school and they see you at Target and stuff, and there's like, oh my God, there's Professor, and that sort of thing. And that's, those moments are priceless.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing.
Did you always know you wanted to be an educator?
Absolutely not.
No?
Absolutely not. If I had my way, I would have been on your show a gazillion times before now, promoting whatever album I was on. I've had a musical group here in Houston. We did all of the talent nights, all the open mic nights. We did, you name it. And I would literally, when I first met you back in 1998, when I won those movie tickets, I don't even know if you remember that.
No. I spent a lot of movie tickets over my career, Jason.
Yes, you have. You have. I won tickets to Halloween H2O in 1998.
Was that with LL Cool J?
That was with LL Cool J. And I came up to the station and I met you, and that was the start of our whole Madison Yates thing. And, but no, that's not, teaching is not what I chose. It chose me.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. And I found that,
it's a noble occupation. It really is, because you are really positively affecting the lives of these kids,
Especially now, because they, even at 4 and 5 years old, they want to know, what the heck is this all about? Why do I have to? They get frustrated. I don't want to wear the mask all day, every day, and that sort of thing. And you have to really explain to them, like literally, that this is life or death, and that sort of thing. And those concepts are really hard to explain to, like itty bitty little kids and that sort of thing. And so I'm able to because I consider what I do a gift, I'm able to explain to them on a level that they can understand. Look, you got to put it on. You got to put it on. And so we talk about how it protects you and it protects me, and that sort of thing. And so they get it. And so I tell people all the time, if you teach it to them, they'll learn it. And so my students are at the point now where they'll actually say, hey, Shelley, no, you're too close. You have to back up. Professor's going to fuss at us,
Wow.
and that sort of thing.
Well, let me ask you before we get in, because I know the whole reason you're on the show today is because you want to talk about a book that you've written. But before we get into that, I want to ask you how you've been holding up. How have you and your fellow educators and the kids been holding up during the pandemic? It's been such an odd time. You guys are definitely on the front line. And I know at first I felt like, I told you before, my best friend, you actually met her. My best friend is a teacher and my brother is, he's an educator as well. And when they were first talking about you guys going back into the classrooms, I didn't feel comfortable with it because I felt like, and I don't want to, be the one, because listen, I'm not the one that should be making these decisions. So I don't want to come across as if, I'm the, all-knowing being. But my feeling about it was that I just didn't want you guys to be guinea pigs because we were still at that time so unsure about, the pandemic, about coronavirus, about COVID. And so I was like, oh God, I don't want them to be, guinea pigs. I don't want them to, we don't know if everything's okay just yet. So how have you guys been holding up, since you've been back?
I will be completely honest with you. I was a nervous wreck. In the beginning because I have asthma. And so knowing that I already have, I mean, I have a respiratory issue already. And it took a lot of prayer. And I think that's probably what the crux of how we've held it together really has been. Is that we've really, really prayed. My pastor is extremely supportive. I'm a member of Wheeler Avenue. And I literally remember calling Dr. Cosby like the day before we went. And I was like, dude, I don't want to go. And he was like, but you have to. He said, you got to go. You've got to go because you have to. And that's what I was alluding to earlier. You have to explain to these babies what we're up against. And if you don't, who will? And that sort of thing. And so it was that charge from him. It was a charge I received from Sheila Jackson Lee. I had a chance meeting with her, and we were actually talking about the book. And she was like, you got to do it. You got to do it. And I don't know if you've ever interacted with her, but she's always so stern but nurturing in her delivery. And she was like, the young brothers and sisters, they need you, and you got to stay in there for them and that sort of thing. And that has really, that along with my faith is what has really sustained me, because otherwise I would be a basket case.
Okay, well, I'm happy you're holding up. So let's talk about your book. Am I correct in remembering that this is the second book that you've written? It's like a children's book, right?
It is a children's book. Here it is. This is my baby. This is Go-Go and the Unfortunate Grit Incident.
Why do you call it that? What's the title?
So it is a take on the classic Goldilocks fairy tale. And it's reimagined for modern day times. It is reimagined with an all African American cast. It has a Houston backdrop. There are a number of Easter eggs that I put in the book that as parents read the book to their children, they will kind of catch some things. I'm from Hiram Clark. Go-Go is from Hiram Hollow. The Bears live in a little town called not Pearland, but Bearland, and that sort of thing. And so it just goes into the narrative of this little girl, Go-Go, who her first name isn't Goldilocks. Her first name is Goldie. Her last name is Locks. But she despises her name. And so she prefers to be called Go-Go.
Mhm.
The problem with Go-Go is that she's extremely nosy. And she's always getting into stuff that really does not have anything to do with her. And so as the story unfolds, we see what happens when she's been forbidden by her mother to even go anywhere near Bearland, and she does it anyway. And the misadventures, if you will, of what takes place once she gets there.
Okay. And if people want to buy Go-Go and the Unfortunate Grit Incident, did I get it right?
You got it right. You
They
got
want,
it right.
they want to purchase it. Where do they go?
It's on Amazon. It is on Amazon. They just type in, I think you can just type in the first couple of words or so, or you can type in Professor J. And that this title, as well as my first title that you have a copy of, Jock,
Mhm.
which was my first story, they will pop up. And I can even send you the link if you'll need it, I guess in our chat or whatever, so that your listeners can click on it and just go directly to that particular title.
Okay. Well, Jason, where can people find you on social media if they want to follow you?
On Facebook, I am Professor J, the author. My email address is Professor, just the letter J,
You want
the
people to know your
author.
email address? Wow.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I'm like totally, everything is all about Professor J at this point.
Okay. Let's
So
see that.
I have everything that I do now is basically using that particular moniker. So if people want to book me for in stores, which is really not a lot of that is happening right now, which kind of brings it full circle as to why I'm so grateful for you having me on.
Mhm.
Not a single bookstore that I had a book signing at for my first book is actually doing in stores right now because it's too risky.
Yeah.
Um,
So what's your
and that's what
address?
it's. The email is Professor, the letter J, the author at gmail.com.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with everyone before we end?
I just want people to go and buy this book. This seriously, I really put a lot into it. The book has two different endings that your child can choose from when they read it, or as the parent reads it aloud to them. And it's actually kind of funny because Go-Go's fate is predicated upon whether one prefers salt and pepper or sugar in their grits.
We were talking, you and I were talking about this on Facebook.
We were.
I grew up eating sugar in my grits and I still like it. I haven't had grits in a while, but if you were to serve me some grits right now, butter and sugar. My whole family used to eat grits that way, but now they've all abandoned me. When they eat grits, they put salt and pepper. And I'm like, what are you guys thinking?
I'm with your family. So it's just really hilarious when they get to this particular page here where she's writing in the clouds on the question mark. That is where you actually make that decision as to what her fate will be. Just so many little things, that nuggets that, from our childhood when we used to read those Which Way books and things like that. There's a shout out to, I'm sure something you're familiar with, to Frenchies in Third Ward.
Oh, yum, Frenchies.
Yeah.
Now, great.
So the bear.
You just made me want some fried chicken. Great, Jason. Great.
Well, come home and get some Frenchies now that they have moved down the street, and that sort of thing. So in my book, the Bears go to Willie Avenue Baptist Church. They're at growl rehearsal when their house is burgled by a go-go, and they go to Willie Avenue Baptist Church and fried chicken. And so literally when they leave out of the church parking lot, they can go through the drive-thru and they can get their chicken or communion when they leave church.
That's really cute. Who, by the way, is your animator?
His name is A. Powell.
Illustrator.
No, you're fine. His name is Abraham Powell. Dynamite illustrator. He's all the way in Alabama.
Okay.
And just really a wonderful guy. really was able to. It's hard when you don't draw and you're trying to get another person who draws to get into your head and see what you see.
It's the
And
same as sorry to interrupt you, but it's the same as if you are a lyricist and you have a melody for a song and you want, the song to go a certain way, but you don't play instruments and you're trying to get the musicians to, actually perform what's in your head. And it's a hard thing. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
definitely, definitely. Abraham is really we didn't know each other. We were introduced by a third party.
Mhm.
And just the degree of humility that he approached the project with. His thing was, I just want you to be satisfied because this is going to be an opportunity for me to be published on Amazon.
Mhm.
And I shared that with my publisher. Her name is Rhonda Branch Yerby. And I'm sure she's grinning from ear to ear because she's an AKA. And of course, Kamala is in office now, that sort of thing. But when I shared some of his backstory with her, she was like, hire him now.
Oh, very cool. So
Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
before we get out of here, Jason, you want to send any shouts out?
My aunts, Brenda Waddell and Artie Waddy, my best friend slash cousins, Christy and Nikki and Lisa and Chris and all them. This is probably going to irk you, but my Madison Marlin family.
Listen. It was the long time ago that I was in high school. Not that long ago, but so I don't really have anything against Madison, although I will admit that Yates is a much better school. But other than that,
I will say this. I have a great degree of respect for Yates and the Alumni Association and the love that you guys have uh, for Yates. Um, Wonderful, wonderful school. I will let you in on this. For a split second, I almost went to Yates.
really,
I almost did because I wanted to be in the SOC.
I was in the SOC, School of
Of
Communication.
course,
Yeah.
of course. It was. I had to weigh. What do you want more? Do you want to be? Do you want to be in the School of Communication, or do you want to be drum major for Madison?
Oh,
And
okay.
being drum major won out.
Why not drum major at Yates, which is a much better band?
Absolutely not. My family would have probably killed me because every single one of us, my uncle who passed away a couple of years ago, his name was Louis Waddell, and he's actually the person who inspired me to write my first book. Well, to publish it, I should say,
Okay.
on the convenience store right across the street from Madison.
Okay.
And Waddell's food store. And I remember I can still hear him saying to this very day when he proofread the copy of Jock, he said, boy, you need to do something with this. And I really hope that he's in heaven smiling down now on the fact that not only did I have.
He and your mother are smiling down on you.
Thank you so much, Shelley. That really means a lot. It really does. And thank you for all your support. I learned a long time ago that people don't have to be nice to you. And so I appreciate you've supported me every step of the way, and I'm really grateful to you for that.
You're very welcome, educator, Professor Nathan Fletcher, author of Go and the Unfortunate Grit Incident on Amazon.
Yes.
You guys buy it and support this educator, because educators really, they are on the front lines, and they are, as you were doing amazing things with our kids during this very difficult and uncertain time. And you should be supported. So everybody go and check it out on Amazon.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I will talk to you on Facebook.
Okay, sounds good.
Jay, why?
Marlon.
All right, bye, Jason.
Bye.
I get it.
How's everything been for you? I'm trying to remember the last time you and I talked. We were discussing your course at San Diego State University for Selena Quintanilla.
Yeah, I think it was
What
like a
year
year
was
ago.
that?
It was in 2020, I think, like right before the course launched. It was like it might have been the fall of 2019, actually.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because I didn't see you last year, so it must have been 2019. So the course launched. I'm so happy to talk to you so I can get an update on how the course went, and is it still going on?
The course is fabulous. It's still going on. It got picked up as a special topics course. And after the first semester, they approved it as a standing permanent course at San Diego State.
I love
Yes.
that.
Yes. So we're offering it again spring of 2021. We couldn't do it this semester because of COVID, and we had to move people around and just do like the core classes that people needed to graduate.
Okay, so I don't know, take me through what a Selena Quintanilla course consists of.
Yeah, so the Selena course is great. I think everybody first thought that the Selena course was like, it's just going to be about Selena every single day, every class period. And
That's
you know
what I
what?
thought.
Yeah, and you know it is. Selena, I think, is embedded in the course throughout, but the main purpose of it was to use a pop cultural icon to help students bridge those theoretical gaps between what they read in their academic books and what they study in theory, and with actually what's happening in the real world, pragmatic, professional, radio, music, television, pop culture. And so she was that conduit. And so students who went through the first semester of the class, at the end, I had them do like an evaluation, what they learned, what they took from it. And all of them said that they found a space to talk about themselves, to get to know themselves better. So Selena's duality with her bilingualness and her kind of, not Mexican enough, not American enough, help them identify with some of their dualities that they were pulled between, whatever those identities might be. They learned more about border politics, and they learned actually how important pop culture was the socio-political atmosphere.
Okay. You were mentioning to me a few weeks ago on Twitter that you now have a course on Cardi B. I was like, I got to get you back on the podcast and on the show for YouTube to talk about the Cardi B course. But before we get into that, Nathan, let's talk about your background. You're my fellow Texan.
Yes.
And I are both Texans and now in Southern California in San Diego. Do you still have family there? And if so, how did they fare through all of the winter storm aftermath?
I do have family there, and thank you for asking. They live in West Texas, so Odessa, Midland, Balmorhea, kind of the western part of the state. And they got hit pretty bad, just like the whole state did. Luckily for my mom, she didn't lose power. She still had power, but my brothers lost power. There was no food in the grocery stores. I think no one was really expecting the magnitude of the storm. And so they were very, very ill prepared, but everyone is safe and sound and doing great.
Good. And, and I heard, I'm in touch with my family every day. They're all in Houston. And, I'd heard the week before, oh my God, it's going to get down to 19 in Houston, which isn't something that's normal.
Yeah.
We're down in the Gulf of Mexico. And so, 19 is not normal. I mean, we've had cold before. Normally it'll get down to like maybe 30 something. Yeah. So 19, I anticipated it being really cold, but as you said, I don't think anyone anticipated it being at the magnitude it was, as cold, and then all of the snow and ice. No one was predicting that. And
No.
And so, as we found out the power grid wasn't up to par for it. And so my family, luckily, my mom had power most of the aftermath of the storm. I think maybe 30 minutes. She went out with power for only 30 minutes. And of everyone, of course, I was concerned about everyone in my family, but especially my mom, so I was really happy that she only had to go through 30 minutes without power. But, everyone was without power at one point or the other. And some of my family members went without water for a whole week. And it was really challenging, and so I was like, is this, with the climate change and such, I was like, listen, this time of year, you can normally, in Texas and Houston, breathe a sigh of relief because we're no longer scared that a hurricane's going to come or the tornadoes, or we're not in the dead heat of the summer right now. This is normally a calm time, without worries. And I'm like, with the climate change, are we going to now have to worry about winter storms too in Texas?
Probably so. Probably everywhere we're going to have to worry about that.
So it was a challenge, but I'm happy that your family's doing well. Really happy to hear that.
Well, thank you.
So what brought you from Texas to sunny San Diego?
San Diego State University. You know,
Okay.
I worked in radio for 13 years and then decided I'm going to get my PhD and I'm going to help bring more traditionally underserved identities into broadcasting. And so I got my degree from Texas Tech University, got on the job market, and there was very few schools hiring. One of them, luckily, was San Diego State University. And that is why I came here literally for the job. And I fell in love with it. There's just so much about San Diego. I mean, you just mentioned San Diego, and I think people don't even need reasons anymore. They just know automatically, like, yes, San Diego.
I also came here for work, and I haven't been on air for nearly 2 years now, but I'm still here because I fell in love with it too.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Absolutely love it. Okay, so now you're at SDSU and you're offering a course on Cardi B. I was like, wait, I have to tell you, a student from Hofstra University, Crystal Bermudez, she works at at Hofstra's radio station, and she interviewed me for World Radio Day a few weeks ago, and she actually listened to your episode of my podcast about Selena Quintanilla because she's a huge Selena fan, and she actually brought you up during the interview. She was like, I saw that Professor Nathan Rodriguez has a course on Selena. And she's like, I wished we had that at Hofstra University. And so shout out to Crystal. And I told her, I was like, wait, he told me now that he has a course on Cardi B. She's like, oh man, I wish I had it. So I know this is have you started offering it yet? And how popular is it?
Yeah, so it's very popular. So with Cardi B, it was, in addition to the Selena class, I really work with pop culture. I mean, you're a radio host, you know this, right? Once you get radio in your blood and you're doing the pop culture, it never leaves. And so I have that connection to pop culture forever. And I want students to be able to know that there doesn't have to be a difference between like academia and pop culture and what's happening, especially for students who are looking to get into the media world, where that's journalism, public relations, advertising, media studies. And so for the Cardi B class, I wanted to focus on a lot of the things that were happening in 2020, things that had been existing before 2020, such as the Black Lives Matter movement. The pandemic, I think, brought a lot of disparities in terms of health and social economic status for people. What was the scope of television? What did it look like when we have, I remember the Drew Barrymore show had just came on and there was no studio audience. How does that look? And so I wanted to create a class that really looked at all those things. But while I was going through the pandemic, Cardi B just kept popping up. I love Cardi B. And she would come up and it would be either Cardi B herself on her Instagram going live. It would be people talking about Cardi B. Now Cardi B said this. Now Cardi B did this. When her song WAP came on, oh my God, that was like such a big issue. People were talking about it. And I was starting to think, wow, Cardi B is here talking to us about real world things that are happening, coming to us from a place of lived experiences. I mean, she's a celebrity now, but she came from a lower social economic neighborhood.
Yeah.
And she was trying to understand not just issues with like the presidential race, because Cardi interviewed Biden and Bernie Sanders, right? But she was also trying to understand issues of like gender identity, sexual orientation, poverty, food, social justice. And so she was embedded in that. And I thought, what better cultural anchor, right, to use than Cardi B to help students understand the magnitude of pop culture as it affects the socio-political atmosphere. And so that was really where the Cardi B class came from. The Honors College, Weber's Honors College in San Diego State, uses professors from around the university to teach classes in there. And they approached me and they said, Dr. Nate, do you want to teach? I said, yes, absolutely. This is what I want to do. And it was between Cardi B and Bad Bunny. I'm also really big with Bad Bunny and looking at him to deconstruct masculinity. So we went with Cardi B and it filled up fast. There was a waiting list for it. And we're offering it this semester, which is spring 2021 in the Weber's Honors College at San Diego State University. And it's called Cardi B and Pop Culture Politics.
Pop culture, wow. So how does a Cardi B pop culture politics course look? What does it look like?
It looks like Cardi B all over the place. So we start off with like acknowledging, right, the very kind of qualitative, critical, cultural foundation of of students being able to reflect on themselves, who they are, their biases, their lived experiences, and how they interpret the world that they live in, how they see media. And then we learn a little bit of who Cardi B is, and we break down parts of the socio-political kind of direction using Cardi B as an anchor. So one part of the class will deal with the way in which women are represented in the media. Another part will look at masculinity. Another part will look at sports, because Cardi B was very involved with not participating in the NFL because of Colin Kaepernick's, I have to really think about how to say his name, Colin Kaepernick's kneeling. And so she passed up the Super Bowl show. And so we start using that as an anchor to talk about what does sports look like with social, political going ons. And so we really use her as a way to ground different sections that focus on something different. We have a whole section on Amanda Gorman and poetry. Yeah. We have a whole section on Lovecraft Country, which is on HBO Max. We have all these different segments, and Cardi B fits nicely into each of them to kind of give us a segue into that particular topic of pop culture politics.
It's interesting to me. How do you plan a course like this? I mean, what do? You go through Cardi B's Instagram posts, and how do you plan it?
That is exactly what I do, Shelley. So
I am the puzzle, like you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
It is. If you could see inside of my mind, you would be like, what is going on here? It was literally a year of me just sitting there during the pandemic thinking, where am I making sense of all this that I'm seeing? But all alongside, Cardi B's on my Instagram and on my Twitter, right? And she's giving me live updates on speaking about AOC, speaking about Biden, speaking about social justice. And so she literally helped me put these pieces together. I'm like, you know what, Cardi, you're right. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. And in my head, we have a 16-week course. I just start planning out what can I do week by week and how does it all fit together?
Okay. Do you know if Cardi's heard about this course on her?
I don't think so. I mean, she has so many people that follow her and that are always contacting her that I'm sure she is not even, it's probably not even on her radar. I mean,
you got to get the word out to her. She would be so excited about this. So
I know she can come guest lecture.
We're going to try to get the word out about this course. I'm so excited about this. Anything else percolating in your brain about like other pop culture figures you may want to have a course about in the future?
Bad Bunny, as I mentioned before, I think he is just amazing. He's breaking down stereotypes and these kind of traditional gender roles that we see in machismo, Latin American societies. I mean, I'm Mexican American. And so for me, I see that really embedded in my culture as in other Latinx cultures. And so I feel like he's giving us like a counter portrayal of masculinity. He paints his nails. He advocates for the LGBTQ community, also for women's rights. I mean, some of his other lyrics are problematic, right? It's like a paradox of sorts, right? He helps one and not the other. But I think it's such a great lens to help look at masculinity just in general and how it relates to culture.
Okay, very cool. All right, so Professor Nathan Rodriguez from San Diego State University. I just love, listen, I can imagine that if I were a college student, I would want to be, your courses would be the first ones I'd be checking out.
Well, thank you.
Because I'm a huge fan of pop culture as well, but I think it's cool that you're not just talking about a Selena or not just talking about the Cardi in the course, but they are anchors, as you said, to talking about other things like politics and pop culture. And I'm super excited. Maybe one day I can come in and just check out the course. Well, I can come in and check it out live.
You sure can. And especially now that everything's on Zoom, you can just kind of like sneak in the back. A little box appears with Shelley Wade and then disappears at the end. Yes, you're more than welcome to, of course.
Hey, I'm excited. So that brings about another question. Are all of your courses on Zoom right now? You guys aren't on campus at all?
At the moment, yes. All of the courses are going to be on Zoom, and for the foreseeable future, they are. Everything's changing kind of by the day. We're just responding in real time, and that's kind of where we're at.
How are you feeling about it?
I have mixed feelings. I think there's just a lot going on and I want to be safe. I want to be safe personally. I want my students to be safe. And right now there's no guarantee. And so it's working for us right now. I know for some students it's not. These are all college age students. So I think that they're adapting a little better than elementary age students. But safety is always going to be my number one priority. But I really do want to get back in the classroom face to face and just be dynamic with them and and just have that whole college experience. I feel really bad for those freshmen who are on campus and they're not even on campus. They're just virtually right now.
Yeah. One of the things I loved about going to college is, the whole experience of, developing new friendships and, becoming an adult where you may not be making the kind of adult money that, older adults are making, but you're making decisions for yourself more so than when you're, just with your parents parents. I just love the entirety of the debating with other students, and that whole experience, from college was the physical experience of being on campus in classes. I would probably be one of those students that'd be bummed out about it, but being in courses like yours probably, makes it all better. So.
Well, that I'm glad you said that, because that's my goal, is to help students during this time at least have one of those courses that they don't be like, oh, I have to go to Dr. Nate's class again. I want them to be excited and be like, yes, let's learn about Cardi B and social justice and all these other things that come along with it.
Well, Professor Nathan Rodriguez from San Diego State University, of course, you see behind him his above his head, his social media platforms. Anything else you want to share with everyone?
No, I just want people to know that you can find an opportunity to learn in everything, whether it's Cardi B, whether it's a book you pick up, a TV show, a podcast, and take those opportunities to learn.
Yeah, and for people listening to just the audio on podcast, it is Twitter at Nate_SDSU, and on Instagram at Nate_Rod, ROD. Well, thank you so much for blessing the podcast with your presence again. I appreciate you, and I'm going to sneak in on one of your courses one day.
So thank you for the invitation. Anytime.